There has been rampant anti-Semitism just proliferating all throughout our streets in Canada since the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th in Israel. Hello, I'm Adrienne. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. Warren, I've lost count of how many times we have talked about this, how many times we've seen the protests go into Jewish communities, targeting the Jewish population in cities like Toronto, for example. The latest example comes from the Mount Sinai Hospital on what is referred to as Hospital Row here in Toronto, for those viewers that are unfamiliar with it. These protesters appear to have targeted and scaled walls and chanted Intifada outside Mount Sinai Hospital. And yet not a single arrest, no one held accountable. And here we go again. Warren.
Yeah, and I wrote about this in our paper this morning. There are dozens, literally dozens of laws that apply here. Unlawful assembly, mischief, intimidation, rioting. Like any number of those things could apply, because what we're talking about is in fact a hospital. It's not a military infrastructure. They weren't planning the war in Gaza there. They're delivering babies. 7,000 babies every year get delivered at Mount Sinai, including my own sons were delivered there. You know, this is where people go for cancer treatment, when they have an emergency department that's busy all the time. It's a hospital. And as Premier Ford said, what these protesters did, and you know, I think there's other words that we can apply to them other than protesters, was indecent.
Well, I think it's absolutely terrible. The federal government came out with a law that you cannot protest on hospitals. Folks, get some decency, have common sense. These hospitals are there to save lives.
Forget about whether there's any laws or not. This is indecent conduct. And it was intimidating, not just for the physicians and the nurses who work within that building, but also for the patients, the people that going there to get their lives saved or get their lives bettered. It is disgusting. And what was just almost as disgusting is the total absence of a police response after all the stuff that has been happening in Toronto in recent weeks since October 7th, for the police to drop the ball yet again. You know, they were coming down University Avenue. You could hear them from a long ways off. The cops who were 4 minutes away had no excuse and not to be there, but they weren't there. Just 2 officers apparently were there. It is shame on the Toronto police force.
And that's what we hear from the Jewish community, Brian, is like, what's it going to take? I mean, they're going into the malls, they're going onto the streets, they're shutting down bridges, they're shutting down freeways, they're closing down intersections. Like, what's it going to take for someone to finally say enough?
Well, a lot of public shaming of Myron Demke, who I keep saying, look, if you don't want to do your job, step aside and let someone else do it. You know, we can do this quickly or slowly, as happened in Ottawa, and he doesn't want to go the slowly way. Get to it, do your job, tell your officers to get in there and start arresting people like for this. They passed a law in 2021, 22, I forget, Bill 3, all about not protesting at hospitals. Do we have to call these guys anti-vaxxers to get the police to act? Because that's what the law was passed for. So call them anti-vaxxers, and maybe they'll go arrest them. Instead, they're just hooligans. They're yobs. And now the excuses that they're coming out with, saying, oh, well, you're allowed to walk past a hospital, you know, that's allowed in Canada. Or they said they weren't targeting a Jewish hospital. I'm sorry, as you said, Adrienne, it's Hospital Row. They're lined up and down University Avenue. They didn't stop at the other ones. They stopped at Mount Sinai. They climbed up on the scaffolding and then onto an overhang awning rooftop, waved the Palestinian flag as the guys down below are banging on a military snare drum, and they're chanting about the Intifada, which is the violent killing of Jews. Don't tell me it means uprising or shake it off. No, it's a mindset that goes with Hamas, that goes with ISIS, that goes with Al Qaeda. These guys are supporting terrorism, and they're terrorizing people at a Jewish hospital because it's Jewish.
And it's just simply that. They're targeting Warren because they are Jewish. The conflict that is happening all those thousands of kilometers away, we can't do anything about that there. We can do something about what's happening here. I don't, however, understand in I don't recognize certain aspects of our country anymore either, and how this has become almost commonplace. These protests have been going on for far too long. They haven't been shut down. No one, hardly anybody's been arrested, for heaven's sake. But the clear targeting of one group, the Jewish people, in 2024, in this day and age, seems to be acceptable to the Toronto police, and I'm really struggling with that.
And it's happening everywhere. Jewish community centers in Fredericton, in New Brunswick, in Montreal, being firebombed, hit by Molotov cocktails. A Jewish delicatessen in Toronto, firebombed. Schools where little kids go, 7-year-olds go, their only crime is to be a Jew, shot up not once, but twice. Imams standing up in front of 20,000 people in Montreal, calling upon God to exterminate the Jews.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on. And where this stuff is taking place, because it's not every police force that is being as negligent as the Toronto Police Service. It's happening in those places where the police force is not acting. So if you have a mayor, regrettably on the left, like Olivia Chow or Valerie Plante in Montreal, who's not saying to the police, we will have your back. We will back you up if you act against these thugs. When that's not happening, the police are standing back because they feel that they're on their own. And these protests are getting worse. And we're seeing not just anti-Semitic incidents, we're seeing anti-Semitic crime. It is critically important that all of our leaders in society say to the police, we expect you as peace officers to act against this and protect citizens, including Jewish citizens. And in some places in this country, it's not happening.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Isn't it time for the police to do their job? And go to theTorontoSun.com and hit that subscribe button. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.